About 5 years ago, I took my vehicle to have the catalytic converters checked. The mechanic working on the vehicle then handed over the task to an apprentice who forgot to disconnect the negative battery terminal before starting work. To cut a long story short, I ended up with a compromised 120 amps alternator fuse after a wrench the apprentice was using touched a charged part of the vehicle. Since the mechanic and his apprentice were clueless regarding the proper replacement procedure of the alternator fuse, they simply opened its transparent cover and breached back the wires, assuring me that all was well. And for years, the vehicle worked just fine, or rather, appeared to work just fine. However, after two starter batteries kicked the bucket prematurely, the whole vehicle refused to start, only cranking without most lights on the dash, starting again after the fuse links were brought together, and only recently producing an excessive voltage surge that made the rolling up and down of the windows faster than I've ever experienced. And the AC, even on the lowest setting, blowing as fast as if it were on its fastest setting. I knew that the time to replace the fuse had come. To assess the fuse box where the alternator fuse is located in the engine bay, you first need to disconnect and remove the starter battery. When doing this, pay attention that you disconnect the negative terminal first before the positive. With the starter battery out of the way, the two bolts that hold the air filter assembly will need to be taken off, the mouth disconnected, the intake clamps loosened, and the vacuum lines carefully taken out. The next logical thing to do will be to take out the three bolts holding the air filter box to the frame of the vehicle. With that out of the way, you will now have the space to finally face what's important to you. The hood fuse box where one of the most important fuses of the ES330 resides, the 120 amps alternator fuse. The fuse box itself is held to the body of the vehicle by three bolts and a clip-on arrangement that needs to be squeezed out of the inner fender to completely free the box from the body of the vehicle. After tackling the three bolts and clip-on, there's also a second bolt right at the edge of the fuse box that also needs to be taken out. This bolt holds a thick gauge wire down, running from the side. With all the tear down to this point, there's something that is very important to note at this point. The fuse box is a clip-on sort of arrangement where its upper part is merged with its lower part by means of clips that snap into each other to make the two pieces appear whole. There are about 6 of such clip-on positions that you need to work out by depressing the locking spot in and carefully raising the upper part out while your hand still actively holds down the locking mechanism. Once the locking mechanism of the two parts of the fuse box is done away with, what effectively remains is to take out the bad 120 amps alternator fuse. The fuse itself is held by a 10mm bolt on the outside and an 8mm bolt on the inside. While here, be careful so that you don't cut or compromise the numerous wires crisscrossing the entire place. With the old fuse out, the new fuse will easily fit into its space and the bolts will hold everything in place beautifully. To avoid messing up anything, be sure that the new fuse faces the same way the old bad one did. With the new fuse in place, everything else from this point will be the reverse of taking things apart. However, before you go, there are some tips that are worth noting, tips that will make this DIY project easier to carry out without challenges. First, the lone clip-on that sockets to the body of the fender on the right of the fuse box can be a pain to figure out. Be patient here and take a break so as not to get angry and damage it if things get complex. Second, if the cables coming underneath the fuse box and from it into the firewall are tied with zip ties, it's best to cut them off carefully before proceeding. It's more challenging attempting to work with the zip ties still in place. Finally, be very careful around the many wires, especially the ones that crisscross the inner bolt of the alternator fuse. A mistake here will easily compromise one of them, putting your work back and making you sweat unnecessarily. Good luck. Catch you on the next one.